Hi, I'm so excited to bring you another installment of the Shmita Studio series from the Tasman Center for Jewish Creativity. I'm your host, Rabbi Sarah Tasman, and I'm so excited to have our guest on today, Bridget Bard, who's from Louisville, Kentucky, and she's going to share a little bit more about herself in a moment. We're going to have a wonderful conversation today about creativity and creative practice, and we'll see Bridget's studio space where she works, and we'll talk a little bit about creative practice and the Shmita year, the sabbatical year in the Jewish calendar. So welcome, Bridget. I'm so excited to talk with you. Tell us just a little bit about yourself, anything you want to share, and about yourself as an artist as well.
Sure. So my name is Bridget Bard, coming to you from Louisville, Kentucky today. I currently work at Adath Yeshurun, one of our congregations here, and I work for Louisville Melton. So that's a branch of the Florence Melton School of Adult Jewish Learning, something I really enjoy. So Jewish learning and life is a big part of my life, which is why I was excited to join Rabbi Sarah today.
Awesome. Thank you. And tell us a little bit about the kind of artwork you do and what kind of artist you are.
Sure. So the art that I'll be showing off today is all abstract, minimalist art. There is only one set that we'll see in a minute that has color in it. And that was only by request of the friend who asked me to make it. So I have only been working with black paint and a handful of brushes with a couple canvases. So it's very minimal, it's very abstract. One of the things that I like to do is show it to people and not say anything. I want them to tell me what they see first. And then if they need some guidance, I can tell them what I was going for. But the point is really to see what you need to see and to make a point with as few lines as possible. So that's what I've been practicing.
Very cool. Very cool. And did you grow up making art? Do you have an art background?
A little bit, yeah. I definitely enjoyed art class and would draw a lot as a child. I never really pursued it formally. I mean, I would take the occasional art class, more if it was a requirement. I wouldn't complain. But I really enjoyed art as something that would kind of come and go in my life and would crop up and be like, wow, this really fits and I can express myself well. And then if it changed to something else, I wouldn't be upset about that. So that's why a more formal art experience wasn't really in my path, but it's definitely been a consistent part of my life and how I get to express myself.
I love that. I love the idea of having art as a consistent practice in one's life, but also having that ebb and flow. And that, I'm imagining just sort of, you having this very comfortable, gentle relationship with your practice to, as you said, if it changed in some way, or, letting go or welcoming it in, depending on what was going on or what kind of work you wanted to do, throughout your life.
Yeah, medium is a big part of that. The medium is probably what changed the most. I was pretty much always making art, but sometimes it would be charcoal on paper, sometimes it's paint on canvas, sometimes it's words. So
I love that. Yeah, changing mediums can really help you express yourself in a different way. Yeah. So show us your space. I love that. I can see like the roof beams, the wood.
Yeah.
And show us what we have back here.
I'm gonna turn the camera around if I can. Here we go.
Okay.
Oh, did it not do that?
No, I'm still seeing. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, here we go.
Yeah.
So this is my space where I'm actually sitting working most of the time.
Yeah.
Keep all my supplies within reach. Mm-hmm. That piece that you see here is one of my earlier ones. It's called Embrace. That's all I'll say about that one. Okay. And then got table set up with a few other pieces. This is the notebook that I would take to, I've hosted some pop-up shops. And so this is where I would encourage people to write down what they see in the art. So you get anything from really beautiful abstract things like beauty, strength, love, to somewhere on here it just says a stack of Doritos. So you get a lot of different interpretations. This is the only pieces that I've made that have color and they've got that red in them. They're very feminine.
Yes. Yes.
This one, the large one that you see up the top there, is probably my most important piece. That was my version of what I thought my spirit looked like. So yeah, that one's very special to me. And yeah, just a couple other storage pieces.
I love,
That's
what do you
pretty
call
much
that? That's like a sling where it's open to that page. Yeah.
honestly, I found it at Target and it was a firewood holder.
Oh,
But it works really well just holding some of the art like that.
yes. Very
Yeah.
beautiful to display that way.
I lucked
And
out.
what's next to it?
Over on this side?
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's a similar thing. This was an old magazine holder
Okay.
that I've put. These are actually some of the like attempts at ones, so the ones that I deemed not quite perfect.
The practice one.
So, yeah.
Tell me more about the pop-ups. Was it like a pop-up gallery show for people to come in and see your work?
Yeah, so it was at a place here in Louisville called Logan Street Market. And it's just a big, partially open air marketplace that's really cool. And they will host an art bazaar regularly. And so, yeah, I just got to set up shop, set up a table, all my easels and stuff so that I could display everything, and people were welcome to buy it or just talk and write down what they saw in the notebook too.
Awesome. The one that you said was the depiction of your spirit. Will you say any more about that?
Sure. I thought I might have my notebook out here to show. I made it, I mentioned that I would change mediums a lot. So I made it originally in charcoal, just on a small sketchbook. And that's probably my favorite medium, if I'm being honest. That's what I did during our Angels and Judaism session, is I used charcoal. And so it looked a little different than that. It had a different kind of background shape, but I actually showed it to my boyfriend, and he's just the most like encouraging and empowering person. And he was like, you should definitely paint that one as well, because I thought, how could I translate this into paint? I like it so much in charcoal, but it really got watered down into just the shape that it is. I can kind of show it again.
Distill. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Just as like few pieces as possible. And it just, all of this really came from a place of frustration, because it started when I sustained a concussion and was trying to recover from that. So when I made Spirit, I felt like I was trying to figure out like who I was again. Like, where did my mind go? Where are all my ideas now? And I wanted to find that again. And so this was the start of that process. And it was one of the first pieces that I made before I launched into the rest of this.
That's incredible. And art really can not only be another way to express ourselves, but also a healing practice. And I have found many times in my own life that, when I was going through something particularly difficult or challenging, that having another way to express myself, not in words, but through putting something onto the page or onto the canvas or using another medium, helped me express myself in a way that I might not have been able to in words or just in talking. And that process can be very, very healing and therapeutic.
Yes, I felt the exact same way, because my medium before the concussion had primarily been writing and poetry and that kind of thing. And I just could not, my mind literally hurt too much. Like, I could not string together words in an eloquent way. Like, that was just not going to happen. But I knew I still needed to like get these things off my chest. And so it's been interesting to paint something. It's not out here, but to paint something that represents frustration and like feeling trapped, and have someone look at it, and that's the one that they said looked like a stack of Doritos, right? Like, you could never have someone read a piece about frustration and like feeling stuck and think of Doritos, right? Like that's just not going to be what happens. And so the medium and like how it gets interpreted is so very different. And I really enjoyed kind of just leaving it up to people. It was a passive way to like create something, because I was kind of in a passive state, right? Like I was just trying to get through the day, and this made it a bit more fun.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I definitely did not feel a bag of Doritos or see a bag of Doritos. I felt more of a, even though you said you created it during that time of struggle and difficulty, but the feeling that I got from it was that kind of a soft hold, that kind of gentle holding or grasping in a way. I almost, felt like they were fingertips or something like
I like
that.
that.
So it's fascinating to me that, someone can interpret something completely different from what the artist intended. But I love that you're putting it out there for people to interact with in that way.
Yeah.
So
I enjoy it.
Yeah. So tell me a little bit about your thoughts on Judaism and art, as you've created your own and claimed for yourself, your Jewish identity. Is there any connection for you with your expression of Judaism and your expression through art, or any thoughts on that?
Yes and no. It's definitely crossed my mind, and I would identify as a Jewish artist, but do I think that my art is particularly Jewish? No.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Yes. Yep.
I think it's kind of hard to categorize it in any way, really, just by nature of what it is. But I think that my interpretations and like images like that I have in my head do come a lot from my study of Judaism. And so I think that it does influence it, but on a very subtle level.
Yeah, I love that. So one of the other things I wanted to chat about today is that theme of Shmita, which is the sabbatical year in the Jewish calendar, and the idea of maybe pulling back in our lives in some way so that we can make room for something else. The sabbatical year in the Jewish customs and Jewish laws are really about farming and agriculture. And even though we're not farming or agriculturalists, I've been really thinking about Shmita in a kind of spiritual or symbolic way this year, and wanting to give more space to see what comes up creatively. And I wanted to hear if you have any thoughts on the Shmita year, or Shmita as a creative practice, or how you're thinking about it as an artist, or any thoughts you have.
Sure. When I was I was reading up on Shmita again to make sure that I had a good idea of it, and just kind of reminding myself of what it means. And I kept seeing like year of release, or like release year, that word specifically of release, was really on my mind when reflecting on this. And I think for me, as far as in terms of my art, I want to focus on that like release of tension, right? Like that's what art provides for me, is like you have this idea, you've got something, there's bubbles going, and you want to be able to put that out into the world. So that idea of release, and like not being afraid to, you got to kind of let things go a little bit, is what I really want to channel in my art. At the same time, though, I do feel like I'm kind of in like a reverse of the year. So I feel like I am more in a place where I need to focus on like kind of gaining and still building a little bit, because I was in this like forced period of rest, right? That I wasn't planning on being in bed all the time during the whole summer. So the broader concept is a little bit flip-flopped for me right now, but I don't think that that's a negative thing. I think I kind of got to experience the idea of a Shmita year over the summer in a way, from really literally that was a release in and of itself. Like I had to give up a lot of things, and I had to let a lot of things go. And now I want to be able to do that in a more intentional way, and learn how to practice that instead of it being forced upon me, which was something that I think the universe knew I needed to learn.
Wow.
So, yeah.
Yes, yes. And, you know, you're not the first person to say to me that like this Shmita year feels like it's flipped or reversed. Like a lot of people for different reasons, health reasons related, and, you know, that they maybe had an unexpected Shmita last year or this past year. And then now to think about Shmita in a very different way after having that physical rest or almost forced rest. And I love what you're saying about this year, Shmita, being a year of release, because that's definitely one of the main aspects of Shmita. And thinking about how that could come through in your art is such a wonderful thing or intention to have with you, or a seed to plant to have with you during this year. Yeah, beautiful. Bridget, do you have any hopes or a wish or a blessing for this Shmita year that you might want to share?
I would hope for peace of mind and the strength and comfort to also speak my mind.
Yes, amen. That's a beautiful, beautiful blessing for this year. Well, I want to thank you so much again for showing us your studio and showing us your work and for having this conversation with me. Thanks.